Hi, my name is Ian Stones from Ho Fertility and Wellness, and welcome to this video where I want to spend a bit of time explaining and exploring a semen analysis report. Because for many men, the first time they get their semen analysis report, it's a bit of a minefield. And it can be quite shocking as well, actually. If you don't understand the figures and how it all works and what it's all about, it can be a little bit bewildering. So I just wanted to demystify that, explain a bit of information, and help guys get a better understanding of their fertility. So just wanted to sort of say, for a lot of guys, they don't give much thought to their fertility. We're told from a very early age, don't have unprotected sex, you'll get a woman pregnant. We're not taught to think about our fertility in advance. So for a lot of men, it's not until they have been trying maybe for a year and a half, a couple of years, that they'll go to their GP, they'll explain what's going on, and the GP will run a semen analysis. And the guy will then, either get a phone call from the GP or maybe even the receptionist, or they may get a copy of their report and they'll be told either it's fine or, there's a problem. But typically not a lot else happens either way at that point. So a guy's left thinking, well, what does it all mean and what do I do? So, we turn to the internet, we try and find this information. So I wanted to provide that information. I want to help men understand what it's all about. Let's have a look. So when you get your semen analysis report, there's 4 key things that we're looking at. There's some other information on the report that's relevant-ish and important, but these are the 4 things that really are our kind of key focus. So I'll go through each of them in turn, and then what I'm also going to do is explain the parameters that we should be looking at and what you should be looking to achieve with your results. So the first thing is the actual volume of the sample. Now, this isn't the volume of sperm, this is the volume of semen, and semen is made up of several different fluids. Sperm is part of it, but there's also some fluids that produce from the prostate, and these all support the health and the motility and movement of the sperm. So this is literally about how far up on the tub do you get. It's literally a measurement in milliliters of how much fluid you produce. Now this can all of these can fluctuate, but this will fluctuate per ejaculate. It will depend how often, how frequent you've ejaculated. But it's simply a measurement in milliliters of how much fluid you produce in your ejaculate. So that one's quite simple, quite straightforward. Moving on, we then look at concentration. Now but they're all important, but this one's particularly important, and this is in effect kind of like your sperm count. And this is the figure that a lot of men will focus on and think, oh, okay, is it good, is it bad? What we're looking at is the total number of sperm per milliliter of ejaculate. So I was very lucky, many years ago, I got to go into a lab and spend a whole day with embryologists, and I saw how they process sperm and how they actually do a semen analysis. I don't think a lot's changed, to be honest, since I've done that. But they literally get your sample, they take a small drop and they put it onto a little slide. On that slide are 100 tiny little squares, so 10 across, 10 down. And what they do is they literally count the number of sperm that they can see in each of the squares and then multiply that. And that gives you your concentration of sperm. So how many actual sperm are there per milliliter of ejaculate? Your next reading is your motility. Now, again, this one can be quite confusing because you will see that there are several different forms of motility. And they might use the word motile, they might use the word progressive, they might use the word non-motile and non-progressive. So what we're looking at here in terms of motility is we're looking at how are the sperm swimming, or even are they swimming? So are they swimming in the right direction? Are they going round and round in circles? Or are they just laying there doing nothing? Or maybe just quivering and not really making any progress at all? What we're particularly interested in here, or what's most relevant, is the number of motile sperm. So how many sperm are swimming in the right direction with good kind of forward progression. That is given as a percentage. And like I say, I'll go through the exact figures of what we're looking for in just a minute. So motility is just about the direction they're going in. The final reading is morphology. This is about the shape of the sperm. So, you know, a sperm has three very key, or three very distinct sections: the head, the midpiece, and the tail. Now, you know, men produce typically millions of sperm, but actually a very, very high percentage of those are misshapen. So they have a strange shaped head, they might even have two heads, they might have, you know, two tails, half a tail might be missing. So this is about how the sperm actually look. So you've got the kind of, in effect, you've got the number of sperm, whether they're moving or not, and then what they actually look like. And the morphology is exceptionally important because it is about the shape of those sperm and whether they're going to be able to actually make any progress and penetrate the egg. So in terms of what we should expect in terms of normal parameters, these are set by the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization tracks, you know, well, they do masses of things, but, you know, one element is that they track male fertility. They look at what are the normal parameters, what is the, you know, the whole male population across the globe, how do things look? So they then set these parameters around sort of, you know, global standards. So when you get your report, what you will see is you'll have your results, and then somewhere next to it is the World Health Organization parameters. Now, you know, if you've seen a semen analysis report, you know they're not necessarily very easy to interpret. I've been doing this for years, and it took me a good many reports to sit and go through them and say, okay, right, I know what I'm looking at and I know what the parameters should be. Now I kind of know it all off by heart. It's in my head. It's very easy to quickly go through a guy's report and suss it all out. But yeah, you will have your results, and then you'll have the World Health Organization standards, and this is what we're aiming for. So what should you be achieving? So in terms of volume per ejaculate, we want to be looking for 1 mil, 1.5 to 5 mil per ejaculate. So that's the total volume of fluid. That's what you should be producing. So when you go and give a semen analysis, they will always tell you to abstain for around about 2 to 5 days. You know, if you've ejaculated the day before and then you go and give a semen analysis, you will probably find that this will be on the lower spectrum and maybe even below. If you have stored up for over 5 days, then it may be slightly greater. But of course, the problem with storing your sperm up is that it actually can damage some of the other elements. So that's what we're looking for. How far does it come up to on the pot? Concentration, this is the million kind of count that we're looking at. So the absolute minimum that we're looking for is 15 million sperm per milliliter of ejaculate. What you might find with this reading is you've got your concentration and total sperm count all showing on the report. So your total sperm count will be that figure per milliliter times by the number of mil. Kind of makes sense, really, doesn't it? Quite simple. You might also find on the report that you've got total motile sperm per ejaculate, which will be, it gets quite complicated. You work out the total number of sperm and then you work out the motility percentage that are progressive, and then you can work out your total motile count. But to be honest, keeping it simple, this is all you need to be focusing on. So in terms of motility, how many of your sperm are swimming in the right direction and swimming correctly? We want to be looking for 32%. So around about a third of your sperm need to be swimming in the right direction. And like I say, these are absolute minimum standards. This is what we should be aiming for or above. And then finally, your morphology. Now this one can be the one that causes quite a lot of alarm. So as I said, morphology is about the shape. It's how your sperm look. Now what you might also see is the term normal forms. So what this actually means is the percentage of your sperm that are normal. So, you know, fit into the, you know, nicely shaped head, mid-piece and the correct length tail. When you actually think about that, what that's actually saying is 96% of your sperm are actually misshapen. They have two heads, they have, you know, a kind of cleave in the head, or they're missing a tail or whatever it is. That's quite shocking, really. So if you didn't know this and you got your report, you think, oh my God, I've only got 4% normal forms, or I've only got 4% normal sperm, that could be quite depressing really when you read that, but actually that is normal. One might say that men are quite inefficient. We produce an awful lot of sperm, but only a third of them will be swimming correctly and only 4% of them will be the right shape. So don't be alarmed if that one looks very, very low. That is perfectly normal. But like I say, these are the absolute minimum standards we're aiming for. Now, what's important to kind of understand when you get a semen analysis, or when you first do a semen analysis, is to appreciate that it's only ever a snapshot in terms of your sperm health. So if you're slightly out on these, it's not that is it, you're written off and your sperm is terrible. It's at that time when you produced that sample, things weren't particularly great. And what we have to remember with sperm is that there's a 90-day lead time between kind of production and maturation and then ejaculation. So actually what you produce on the day when you go and give your semen sample has actually been 90 days in production. So if you get some results that are a little bit out, you might think, oh God, that's really bad, and it was an off day or whatever it was. Actually, what you've got to do is track back 3 months and say, okay, what was going on then? Oh, actually, I had a really bad cold, or I had the flu and I'd been quite unwell and I'd had a fever. That will then show up in your results. So what I would always encourage a man to do is, make the appropriate changes, or, carry on living life as is, and then retest 3 months later. If you've then got the same kind of results, there's still some parameters that are out, then you need to kind of look and sort of start assessing what's going on and why there might be a problem. And I think what's really interesting with sperm is it's an end result. There's many factors that influence sperm health. So when you do a sample, it's only ever a snapshot, but what you're getting is the end result. So I came up with this terrible analogy once that actually kind of paints the picture quite well. Is, if you imagine a factory that's producing something, let's say crisps, there's always quality control. Somebody at the end of the line will always be taking a packet out every now and again, opening that packet and saying, right, yep, we've got the right amount of crisps, they look the right shape, they're well cooked, and the packaging is fine. In a way, a sperm test or a semen analysis is exactly that. It's a quality control check. What's going on? Now, if there's something wrong, what would they do in that factory? They would go back up the production line and try and find out where things are going wrong. And this is exactly the same. So, one of the key influences for men around their sperm health are things like lifestyle, diet, stress, exercise, protein shakes, all those kind of things. So it might be, okay, well, let's look at what's being put in, because that will actually determine what's being put out. But, if things aren't right, you've got to look back up the production line and assess things. You've got to change things, and then you retest. So I would always encourage a guy to retest. I would always encourage a guy to actually test early. Don't wait until it's a year and a half, 2 years down the line. If you're thinking about having children, if you're thinking about starting a family, or you're just early doors in terms of trying the first couple of months, just go and get tested, because there's an assumption that fertility issues sit with a woman. There's many men go around, not arrogantly thinking that they're okay, but we're not educated to think there could be an issue. So it never crosses our mind. So for many men, they kind of don't even think about this stuff until they're much further down the line. So I would always say, get tested really early. Get tested as soon as you can, before you think about having a family. Because if there's something wrong here, you've got time then to process it. You need 3 months minimum to make lifestyle and diet changes to see if that has an impact. So get ahead of the game, get the facts and figures, find out what you're dealing with. Now, if you're a little bit anxious about going to see a GP, you're anxious about having getting this test done, knowledge is power, first of all. It's worth getting the test done so that you know what you're dealing with. But there are other options as well. There is the option to test at home. There are some great home test kits. I've actually partnered with Xseed, who offer a fantastic home test kit. I can also offer a discount on that as well. But this is a really simple way of tracking your fertility at home. You can actually buy a kit where you can do 5 tests over a period of time, so you can actually get a picture of what's going on. It's very simple. You get a little pot, you get a little slide, you pop the slide in the little reader thing, you put your camera over the top, and within minutes you've got your results. Now, the only thing I will add to that, and I'm quite a big advocate of home testing. I think if that gets a guy just looking, then that's wonderful. Currently, that will only look at those top 3 parameters. So it'll only look at the volume of your ejaculate, the concentration, and your motility. It doesn't currently assess morphology. So it's a good starting point. And you might want to look at, if these are a little bit out, you might look at lifestyle and diet. Then you might retest. But I would always say to a guy that if you're concerned, or if you want a full analysis or an in-depth analysis, then you've got to go to your GP or an IVF clinic or anywhere else where you can get a decent semen analysis done so that you can actually look at morphology. So just bear that in mind. If you're home testing, it's a good starting point, but definitely make sure you get a full analysis if you've got any concerns or worries, and follow up with somebody, have a chat with somebody if you're concerned. But as I say, I think the key thing is that guys get testing, get that information. Knowledge is power, and then you can do something about it. So I hope that's helped. I hope that's demystified things, helped make sense. If you've got any questions, if you've got a report, if you're not sure, then just drop me a line, get in touch. I'm really happy to help. And I hope this has helped as well. Thank you.